let us now read from file. Well, the idea is pretty much the same. First, we open using the same function, and we assign the result of that to a file handle that we will use, variable that we will use to manipulate the file. And then we can use other functions. So instead of using the write function, we can use the read function or the read line function. There are some functions that we can use that we will see in a second. But before that, we can treat this f as if it was itself a container of data, a data structure. Okay. So we can traverse it very easily using, for example, a for loop. So if I say for line in f in my file, then Python will automatically give me every line one at a time within the for loop. So for example, in this case, I'm going to print my cool file name that has these two sets of 5 numbers and these sentences because I did this append thing before. Okay. Is actually the open gives me something called an iterator that I can then feed to a for loop. Notice that we have not given any the open function any mode. Okay, so because we haven't, it takes the R default value for reading. As before, we should close the file after we have finished with it, so there are no problems of, let's say, unattended things for the operating system. But we said before that we can use some reading functions. So for example, one of them is the read lines function. And it, in this case, returns something similar to me. But now I have this not as a result of the open, but as a result of read lines. I can also use a function. I can then have these lines that I can print. Actually, have a separate variable, separate object that I can read. Okay, so as you can see, this first one, the lines function, is something that starts with a square bracket, which is a code for a list in Python. So basically, read lines returns to me a list of the lines in my file. Okay, and then I can print them and close the file, and so on and so forth. I can even read directly, and then that would return all of the contents of the file in whatever pieces I want them. So if I only want to read 1 bit or 2 bits, I can use something called read, which you can research and that we will not use here. Okay, let's erase this from here. We don't have to run that one because we already did. And now we will see another option to read from file that doesn't require us to then close the file. It's something called with. With creates a special environment, and when it finishes, it already automatically closes the file. So we can, with open, again, give a name to the file, and this as construct already forces us to define a file handle, and then we just manage the file handle as we were doing before, and we don't need to close the file. With takes itself care of closing the file. You have some practice to do here, so please have a look and practice reading from file. We can put together the two things that we have been seeing, and reading and writing from the same file at the same time. Okay, I can now first open my cool file name for reading, put all my lines in list, okay, and then print them, and I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to traverse all the lines and do something to the lines. For example, I'm going to open, but now with write mode, and then I'm going to retrieve every line in the mylines variable that I had read before, and then I'm going to write using this file to this new to this file that I have open now for writing, and I'm going to change using Python built-in function called replace. I'm going to replace all the A's for E's. Okay, let's run it. So first of all, I print this mylines thing. Okay, the lines of my file inside a list, and now I see how every one of them will change. Okay, I have this loop where I read every line and see how it will change. And I see that all my lines are changed, so that okay, sorry, I have to run it again because I already, so let me erase this one. You can always work with this if you want, and let me create it again with 5 random numbers and so on and so forth. Okay, here we have it, only one iteration because here I haven't done a append and I have erased the files. And now let's go back to the end and run again this part. And here you can see that first I have the lines of my file in a list. Okay, 5 numbers which are now 3, 9, 9, 9 and 2. You can see the new line character that for Linux is /n. Okay, remember when we wrote to the file before, we told Python to add this new line character, then os.linesep character. And then in the writing part, I'm reading each of the lines, and for each line I'm replacing it. And I'm writing this line will change to this other line. The number lines don't change. 9 will change to just 9, okay, and so on. But the lines that have sentences, the A's will change for E's. So when daddy comes home, you always start the fight, will change to when daddy comes home, you always start a fight. Okay. Okay, so that's some simple reading and writing from simple text files in Python.